I'll be honest with you, if anyone has been following me that's thinking about going into business, you do not want to follow the exact path I've taken. The path I've taken is one that takes into consideration the fact that I'm retired. I'm not dependent on income from this business. Now don't get me wrong, I want to make some money at this business because the whole idea is to have a successful business. But the model I've taken is one, considering the fact that I'm retired, considering the fact that I don't have to live off of this. 40 years ago, when I started a business, I had to do everything possible to generate income, because if I didn't generate income one week, I'd be in trouble. I wouldn't be able to have anything to go to the grocery store and buy groceries with, or to pay my phone bill or whatever. And starting a business, and you're going to be dependent on it, you have to be a lot more aggressive than I've been. I've taken my time. I've gone through these things. That's one reason I have time to do these YouTube videos. I'll spend time setting things up just so I can do a video. In that respect, the purpose of that is so that I can kind of share some of this stuff that I'm doing and going through with others out there, so they don't go through the same thing themselves. There are several people that have asked my advice about starting a business, and I promised I would do a video on how I would go about starting a business if I were young and I wanted to start a business 3D printing, and I needed to make money at that business. Now, you can start part-time. I wouldn't recommend that anyone go out there and buy a couple 3D printers, quit their job, and decide they're going to start making money 3D printing parts. But if someone thought that they would enjoy being in business for themselves and making parts with 3D printers and selling them online and so forth, then I would suggest that you keep your job, because you need that income. Plus you need some money to buy some materials and 3D printers and everything. Get those printers, learn how to use them, and decide what business model. And I've been thinking about this since I decided I was going to try to do at least one or two videos on how I would recommend people getting into 3D printing for money. There are specific ways. One would be the path where all they want to do is just print parts and sell them. You don't have to be able to design parts. You don't have to even own a 3D software package. You don't have to have Fusion 360. You don't even have to have Tinkercad or any of the free CAD that's out there, because you can go out to Thingiverse, a lot of places you can go, and you can buy STL files that will give you, for example, a chess set, all the different chess pieces, and you can buy those STL files, and then all you have to know how to do, and you can't print without knowing how to use a slicer. The slicer, even on these King Runes, it comes on the chip with the 3D printer, so you can just use the slicer there. It's a version of Cura that's set up for the King Rune already. And then you just load those STL files in it, and based on the filament you're using, you set your temperatures, and based on the strength of the part, you'll set your density of how dense you want the infill or the honeycomb portion inside that part to be, and your shell thicknesses, a few things like that. You'll learn that pretty easily. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do in one of these videos for people that haven't taken the step yet, maybe haven't even purchased a printer. I had a call from a friend of mine that did get a 3D printer, an Ender 3, for Christmas. he's just now getting ready to start doing some printing with it, and he's just been downloading STL files, some of them I guess free and some of them people charge for depending what they are out there on the internet, and printing those out and having a ball. But at some point in time he would like to be able to come up with some specific items and sell them. A video like what I want to put out will probably help some of these people get an idea of which way to go. Obviously it's going to be easier if you don't have to design the parts, if you can just download them, the files, and print those parts out and then sell those parts. They could be nativity scene figures for Christmas that you print out. Maybe you add some value to them by painting them or something. You can make Christmas ornaments and so forth. So there are a lot of things that you can download and make without having to have the 3D software and learning how to use that. You wouldn't have to have all of the stuff that I've had to accumulate if you keep your products simple. I guess I'm not a simple person. I've got to make devices like this, and I think this particular device here has over 30 pieces, 30 different components go into making this. And I can see right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 3D printed parts in this. Then there's a fan. There are 4 bolts and 4 nuts. There's a switch. There's 2 LEDs. There's some corrugated tubing. There's a flex tube underneath that. There's heat shrink on the ends. There's a smaller corrugated here. There's a male connector on this end, heat shrink here. Hot glue in here to seal that in. Probably a few things that I haven't even mentioned. Of course, the wire that goes through and connects the fan to this connector or to the switch. And then the assembly of it. There's a lot involved in the assembly. You have to fish this wire through here, through this corrugated, solder this connector on, then heat shrink that and hot glue that in. You got to solder the wires from the fan and from the power supply to this slide switch here. You have to also solder the wires from the LED lights on here. You have to put these assemblies together and bolt them together and tighten them down. So there's a lot of heat shrinking, soldering, just regular assembly and everything, in addition to making these 3D printed parts. That's the kind of product that I've been getting involved in, which is very complex. Now, if I made a product like this and just made this device and then this other little piece here, you can buy these large plastic clamps, and if I just assembled that and sold that to be used to hold hot air guns, or I can even hold microphones with it, or I can hold these Dremel tools even can be held by this. I can take this Dremel tool out of here and I can hold it with this clamp. Now it's not going to be quite as stable in this clamp as it would be in this holder here where it can really be tied down. But this is the ideal type of product that people should 3D print. A piece that'll go with maybe one other piece like this clamp, where the only assembly you have to do is just putting a screw and a nut on here and 3D printing your part and purchasing these, and voila, you're done. And then you just sell that. Nothing else. No soldering, no heat shrinking, no intensive labor. And if you do that, then you can make some money. But you have to do some type of advertising or social media. Now, what I'm doing, I'm combining all these different things, making the simple things along with the more complex attachments. And the reason for that is so that I have a product or a series of products that could be used by more people. So that's just a little bit of information. I was actually mentioning the video that I want to do in the future about explaining different ways that people can get into 3D printing and possibly make a business out of it. And I kind of sidetracked a little bit and actually got into some little bits and pieces that will probably be a part of that video. So until the next time, happy printing from NewTek Inventors.